I think I lost my conversation, so I should start from how we have been selling stuff by using amole. Anybody who knows amole, it's a kind of salt, and we have this. I think it's big, kind of big like a cube of side. This one, and now we move to cashes and coins, and recently we are moving to where people can do payment, transfer, and do transactions online digitally without having the actual cash. And as our topic says, today's topic is on the digitization of the financial sector in Ethiopia, and it's digitized everywhere. And I'm also, from my experience, overwhelmed with the rapid change that we see in financial, especially the digital marketing in so the digital payments and the digital transactions are actually increasing in a very big way. And today we have presenters. I think Mr. Solomon Damtew is not here. On Damtew, not here yet, right? Okay. I think he was supposed to cover on the Ethiopian financial sector digital strategy because there's a need to strategize this digital change and maps in the whole nation. But I'll pass to our second presenter, Mr. Melka Girma, who is the CEO of Shega Media. I think that I got so far, but I think you should have a lot of things to say. He'll be presenting for a couple of minutes on the digitization of the financial sector. He'll share, he will share us his experience on what they did in Shega Media and basically what the digital landscape looks like in Ethiopia. And after that, we'll be hearing from Mr. Beza Mamo, who is the director of payment applications in EthSwitch. And I think he'll share us what the fintech and startups are doing in Ethiopia, the whole ecosystem and how they're actually basically operating. I believe this will be actually very important and informative for all our attendees and for myself. And then we'll have a panel discussion, which we'll share from the two presenters plus Mr. Seyoum Damtew, who is the Director of Information System Security in CBE. CBE is the largest bank in Ethiopia, and he would definitely share us what they're doing in the digitization of the finance, plus the security issues that what they've been doing, the risks, and possible ways to mitigate. So now I'll leave the floor to Mr. Melka Girma. Yes, I think you have your slide, right? All right.
Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for the quick introduction, Dr. Beakal. My name is Melka Girma. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Shega Media and Technologies. I will be discussing, presenting about digitization of financial service sector in Ethiopia, but before going to that, since it's after lunch as well, let me try to share an interesting story that I usually share in areas related to digital transaction, cashless transactions. How many of you did you know that almost 18 years ago, in 2017, The Economist magazine predicted an end to the cash era? Well, the message could not have been clearer, right? After 1,000 years of enduring technology as a transaction, cash is going to disappear in the next decade and a half. The magazine illustrated a big, magnificent dinosaur made of coins, right? So they were predicting cash will disappear in the next decade and a half, and that was in 2017. Now, fast forward 2025, 18 years later, that prediction has not arrived yet. And personally, I don't think it's gonna arrive anytime soon. We can discuss that later. But it also highlights the potential that's untapped yet for financial service providers to, innovate and provide more financial services, digital payment services, so that these, cash-based transactions can be gradually converted into um, digital transactions. So that was something I found very interesting when it comes to where digital transactions are going, whether cash is going to disappear anytime soon or not. Having said that, I will be covering a few topics. I will be discussing about what are the key indicators when we say digitization of financial services or digitization of the financial sector in Ethiopia. I will be also touching base on the Ethiopian digital finance ecosystem with a specific focus on the role of fintechs. And I will also share you a bit of highlights on the drivers of digitization of financial services or the financial sector. We'll also discuss about the challenges that are existing in Ethiopia. And we'll have a couple of takeaways from our presentation. But in the middle, I will also discuss about data and analytics, a bit of, but I have a reason to put that in the slide. I will come to that in a moment. So talking about key indicators, this is not an exhaustive list, but I think those four key indicators tell us a lot about digitization of financial services in Ethiopia. As you can see, the first one is digital finance. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tai. I think this is much comfortable. So digital financial services adoption. We can talk about mobile banking, mobile money, payment gateways, digital lending, among others. We will come to the details next in terms of Ethiopia's context, but the other key indicator that I found is critical when we speak about digitization of financial services, the volume of transactions that are being conducted. It could be in terms of values and volumes. Third, innovation and technology, about investments being made on technology and other startups, as well as financial inclusion, account ownership and usage among different demographic groups. Those four are the key indicators that I have selected to explain how digitization of financial service is going on in Ethiopia. But other indicators are still relevant, such as what does the regulatory environment looks like, the customer services and things like that. But those are the key indicators that I think are more relevant for our today's discussion. A quick snapshot in Ethiopia. In terms of digital adoption, I've put some key numbers that you can take away. As of June 2024, these are the data that I have collected from National Bank of Ethiopia, EthSwitch, and FSD Ethiopia. There are 198 million digital accounts of all kinds in Ethiopia currently. Out of that, almost half, around 110 million of them are mobile money accounts. 47 million are mobile banking accounts. The rest are debit cards and internet banking services. In terms of transaction, currently in Ethiopia, close to 8 trillion mobile banking and wallet transactions are being conducted annually. That means around 27 billion Ethiopian birr per day, or around 8 million digital transactions in terms of count. In terms of innovation and technology, as you can imagine, new startups are flourishing, tech companies are coming up in all the areas I have noted there: fintech, agri-tech, education technology, health tech, e-commerce, media, data and logistics, job tech, just to mention some. In terms of financial inclusion, currently the data shows 45% of Ethiopians have bank accounts, 60 million mobile money subscribers, and 782 financial access points per 100,000 adults. Well, what are the drivers of digitalization of financial sector? I have put 3 core areas. At the top, you can see government initiatives. That's one of the key drivers, I believe. It's about enabling the digital financial inclusion policy and regulatory frameworks. In the context of Ethiopia, we had a national digital payment strategy that was enacted in 2021 and has just come to an end in 2024. That was version 1. And version 2, I believe, is going to be launched anytime soon. That's my prediction. Along with that, for the first time in the country, non-bank institutions were allowed to provide financial services with the use of technology. And within that, 2 types of directives were issued back in 2021 for payment instrument issuers and payment service providers. So now fintechs are coming to the space of banks and providing financial services with the use of technology. So we can mention those key aspects in terms of government initiative. And next, in terms of mobile and internet penetration, again, there are some statistics you can refer to. 60% of adult population in Ethiopia are mobile subscribers. Currently, internet penetration, mobile money penetration is also close to that. And along with that, the youth demographic in Ethiopia, as in other African countries, is useful and tech savvy, who are ready to embrace digital solutions. Close to 40% are under the age of 5, and around 30% of them are between the age of 15 and 29. Just to give you a bit of highlights on what Ethiopia's digital finance ecosystem looks like. This was the data that we have compiled a year ago. I believe there might be some changes by now, but it will pretty much covers what's up and on in the country. As you can see, there are different payment service providers, consumer fintech providers. Under that, there are a lot of categories, as you can see. Along with that, you can see also mobile money providers. Some are telco-based, some are bank-backed, and some are independent. Well, at the bottom, you can also who are the key telecom operators and who are the organizations that are enabling this ecosystem. When we come to the role of fintechs, I think we have to speak about MSMEs as well. In Ethiopia, for the last 10 years, of all businesses that were registered, 98% of them were MSMEs. Imagine MSMEs are critical to an economy, not only in countries like Ethiopia, but elsewhere in the world. They contribute a lot towards the GDP in terms of employment and things like that. But the problem is they lack digital footprint to get financial services, and fintechs are there to fill that gap with different solutions. Again, the role of fintechs is also exemplified in terms of financial inclusion in places where banks have not access. People these days are accessing financial services with the use of their telephones and phone numbers. As I just mentioned earlier, this number has went up a lot in recent years in Ethiopia. Along with that, fintechs also bring enhanced efficiency, innovation, and competition into the financial ecosystem. Having said that, I want to touch base a bit on data and analytics, which I think is going to be the next frontier in terms of accelerating digitization of financial services in Ethiopia. Now, different kinds of financial service providers are flourishing, that's one thing, and they are producing a lot of data. Using those data for better decision making will put organizations in a better position in terms of navigating the competition they have, in terms of understanding their consumers in terms of monetizing different investments they have made. As you can see to the right side, I have put some key areas where financial institutions, including fintechs, banks, and telcos, can, in a way, they can transform the kind of data they are producing into different insights, which is again going to help them as they make decisions, as they expand markets and things like that. There is a specific case study that I have mentioned underneath. I don't know how many of you know this, but there is a site in Ethiopia which is called the FS Ethiopia Hub. It's a place where most of digital finance data is aggregated, analyzed, and is providing insights for individuals, innovators, entrepreneurs, banks, and others. You can also go to the site and visit the information that's provided. In terms of challenges, so we have seen some successes that still need to be worked on, but what are the challenges we have in terms of digitization of financial services in Ethiopia? I have put some 5 key areas here. First one is infrastructure and network efficiency. I think a lot has been being said in the morning, in the other session. And again, informal digital financial activities, which are going to affect the formal digital commerce, I think are going to be some of the challenges that we need to tackle as a nation. Third, I believe financial awareness issues is critical as well. A lot is being advertised, but we still see financial awareness gaps, both in the cities and in rural areas. Unleveled playing fields. So as I mentioned earlier, there are different kinds of fintechs, for example. Some are government-owned, some are private, some are telco-based, some are bank-backed. But unless the playing field is equal for all, competition will be affected and growth of those specific organizations as well. So that is, again, one of the key areas that needs improvement in this country, I guess. And lastly, cybersecurity concerns, since a lot has been said about that in the morning as well. I'm not going to go in detail into that, but addressing these barriers is crucial for the continued growth and impact of fintechs, not only fintechs, but the continued role of digitization of financial services in Ethiopia. Key takeaways, I think as the numbers tell as well, Ethiopia has made significant strides in terms of DFS adoption, financial inclusion, and tech innovation. However, collaboration between the government, financial institutions, as well as fintechs is essential. And third, there should be a critical focus in terms of accessibility to ensure these financial services are being provided to all with equitable access. And last, I think leveraging data and analytics for better decision making will take financial service providers, or will take our financial sector to the next frontier. Having said that, the future of digitization of financial services in Ethiopia, the financial sector in Ethiopia, is not something that has been finalized. A lot needs to be done. And I think some of the discussions can also be made during the panel. Thank you so much for listening. I will hand over to Tai.
So we're not used to podiums. We just teach like horizontally. No one is up. You know that, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you for your presentation, and of course we'll have questions, especially your experience on the financial inclusion and what you have been doing so far. And let's hear to second presentation, Mr. Beza Mamo. I have known Beza for probably for 4 years or more. And now he's the director of payment applications in EthSwitch. I think the EthSwitch is the company which makes money transfer across banks, right? And they say EthSwitch didn't settle it yet, so they owe me some money because I tried to take money from Awash, but they didn't give me. Commercial bank said they should give me back. I think he'll give me back today. So Beza, I will invite him to present fintech startups and companies and what the landscape in Ethiopia looks like.
For the introduction, Dr. Beakal, and hopefully we will manage your claim. Yeah. So saying this, already I'm introduced. Beza Mamo, Director Payment Application at EthSwitch. So my presentation today is about the fintech startup companies. So I will go through some basic pointers and then along with the basic definitions, historical backgrounds, and models. Then I try to link with what has been happening here in Ethiopia. So as everybody knows, the fintech is a blend of two words, the financial and the technology. This is a common phenomenon. Yeah? So when we thought of fintech startup, these are companies that try to strive the financial services to its customers, and mainly the financial services they struggle to provide is disruptive as compared to that of the traditional mechanisms of actually sending and receiving or managing all financial aspects. So for that, there are several technology drivers, which I'm going to deep dive in subsequent presentations, like the blockchain and other important techniques, AI, the Bitcoin, and so forth. So let's have some historical view. So even if it is a new word, a buzz nowadays, but the assumption that the fintechs are backdate to the 80s, late the 80s, all right? So this side is in terms of the technology progression. The other side tells you about the use case they actually deliver after the execution of the fintech as startup. So fintech 1.0 is assumed to be the foundation, where there is actually a telegram and more codes, and actually the early foundation for the fund transfer between institutions and across countries as well. So the next development is a fintech 2.0, which is the traditional financial inclusion or financial technology, sorry, where these are actually relies on the brick and mortar, not necessary to bring actually a cashless, but a cash light, because there is ATM online, and actually there is also credit card and so forth. So, and the core banking system invented during this period. Then after, actually the 2008 is the demarcation where the global, especially the Western, face a crisis where they call it the mortgage, all right? So after that, most financial institutions thinking dramatically in another way. Instead of investing on the brick and mortar, on the branches, it would be good to strive and drive those actually financial services online. And actually, there are a lot of technology that comes and emerge, like the rise of mobile banking, cloud computing, big data analytics. Then comes the globalization, where the API and interoperability across a border services are emerging. And this is actually more driven by the blockchain because of the distributed ledgers. So the accounting or the ledgers of the financial services are linked to each other, so that the verification, the validation, the authentication and authorization and other services are also derived via the blockchain technology. Now we have at the CORS era, that is the FinTech 4.0, which is a disruptive since 2008 to present, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and open banking are the new phenomena. And I think we are not hitting this one, especially the open banking is not yet come to us. So this is simply in terms of the technological progression. The other side is in terms of the use case execution. As you can see, from late 90 to early 2000, the electronic banking and online stock trade platforms are introduced. And now we are at the verge of actually introducing this online stock marketing now in Ethiopia. Somehow we are late, but we can get advantage of the available techniques and technology. Then from 2005 to 2010, mobile payments, the peer-to-peer lending, where there is no financial institution, the borrowers and actually the lenders can do a contract online by using the internet infrastructure again. So then from 2010 to 2015, we have the digital currency and crowdfunding, then following the robo-advisor, which has a lot of benefits when it comes to the decision-making for financial services. Yet recently, we have the at the era where digital insurance, open banking, digital security, and online lending are available. So that is the overview as historical backbone to talk about the fintechs. And let us compare, because since we are talking about the internet as a basic infrastructure for fintechs, let's compare what is drivers at the fintech side, especially the internet, and what is the hindrance when we thought of the actually the traditional banks. One is operational model, primarily digital, so that it needs the internet infrastructure fully. It relies on internet. If you look at the traditional bank, this is a physical, so it is actually relies on the branch and the presence of actually the customer to that location. The user experience, fast convenience, often designated for mobile, but when it comes to the traditional banks, it is actually often involves long waiting, even for a loan approval, okay? And maker checker, usually these are the traditional way of doing the bank services, which elongates the process for any financial service to be claimed at that specific location. Probably it can be operational for 8 hours and then it might be closed. Okay, that is also another limitation. From the customer base perspective, actually tech service, youngest and the millennials are part of the fintech and startup. And if you look at the traditional banks, these are people who love a face-to-face interaction. So usually aged peoples, or we can say those who needs actually the physical attachment of the cash itself are actually there. From the regulatory requirement, of course, there are a very light regulatory requirement as compared to that of the traditional banks demands a stringent requirement by respective national banks, all right? So that is one thing for actually blocking the innovation side. And the speed of service instant, that is slow, and the cost structure. The fintechs and the startup doesn't have actually much more cost, lower cost comparatively, because the traditional bank would have the cost for renting the branches and actually for the staffs. The technology, heavily technology driven, they use a legacy system. Even nowadays, the bank or banking system is at the age of like 1990s, all right? We can have the ISO 8583 protocol, which is the latest one is 1993, all right? But recently, since the digital phenomena happened, the other standards like ISO 222 emerging, risk management grows, and others. So there is a high discrepancy comparatively, and the discrepancy arises as a result of the availability and penetration of internet at the hand of the user, the convenience, so forth. So saying this, the role of internet infrastructure for fintechs and startup is paramount important. One is it's actually democratize access to financial service. So no arbitration in terms of age, gender, in terms of the location of the service. You can access, as long as there is an internet, you can access it in urban area. You can also access it in rural area, so long as you have the internet connectivity. And the other one is enhanced cross-border transaction, because in the legacy system, there is a wire transfer possibility, which takes some dates. Nowadays, that is a history, right? You can have the possibility of getting the fund from abroad easily on your land, just because of the technologies that I have described, the blockchain and others. And foster innovation and collaboration. Yeah, development happens in one fintech or startup can be a benchmark, and actually it can drive to other. Say, for instance, if we have an SMS payment driven by WeChat is the one that initialize this sort of the messaging payments with the application. Now we can have the Facebook, we can have the WhatsApp and other social media networks. In terms of the category, we can have the payment services. Most categories in Ethiopia are relying on the payment services, all right? Either to transfer, to pay, or actually to send and receive money. So, which I'm going to describe later, they are focusing only on the payment services, but there are other areas which needs attention, like the wealth management service, like the insurance services, like the lending services, all right? So the insurance service is actually, it can drive electronically between the insurance company and the insurer. And it makes use of the machine learning algorithm to predict the risk level, and the robo advisors would have a lot of advantage over here. I think to understand the fintech and the startup, the key players, one is the startup company itself. The other is the financial institution. In Ethiopia, the big financial institutions are banks, then comes the MFI, and we have also the corporates, all right? If you go to the rural areas, corporates would have much more role. So these are the financial institutions, and technology companies are also paramount important for the ecosystem. And the trend shows AI, blockchain, big data analytics, okay? So the AI is much more important, especially for fraud detection, AI-based fraud detection. So there is a heuristic possibility that you can have a data and you can train that data and can trap some malicious or some fraudulent transaction easily. And the other one is the big data analytics. Nowadays, you know, the data is a fuel. It is an oil. The new oil is a data. So you can make use of that data to predict the upcoming financial phenomena or financial prediction as well. As a challenge, usually regulation is one challenge, because fintechs should comply minimum requirements. It is not as stringent as the traditional banks, but they are supposed to comply minimum rules and regulations. And cybersecurity and the customer trust these are challenges, because they are always looking for a niche of products to a certain level of products that can address some niche of users. So they also struggle to address that issue. So this is a three-dimensional view of the financial technology. Already probably it can be repetitive, but as you can see, we have the digital financing, where you can have a collateral, but digitally you can fund and defund the amount easily using some application. We have the digital investment, digital money, digital payment, digital insurance, everything digital. And then the upper one is the technological concepts, the blockchain, the social networks, the near-field communications, the peer-to-peer technologies, the big data analytics, and including the cyber securities. So these are the disruptive business models. I think, again, in our country, the payment solutions are more applicable. We are not yet come to the neobanks. The neobanks are supposed to be broad, a branchless activity. Every service of the bank is supposed to be online, starting from the KYC gathering up to the end services. So right now, most banks and financial institutions heavily invest on the branch instead of, it looks that we are in contrast to the new bank. So this is one model, but we don't address that one. The other one is digital lending platform, a bit started by some
recording in progress
wallet providers like Ethio Telecom and others come up with one with this sort of services. The robo advisor, which is a back-end service, yet not actually to the level that we expect, but we can have this payment solution, which I'm going to describe in subsequent presentation. So one is the mobile payment. Nowadays, you can see the payment. The payment can be derived using the POS, but the investment of the POS is very high as compared to that of the QR. In the QR, you have the QR code being represented in a paper. So the payment acceptance of QR from the investment perspective is very much light as compared to the POS devices. So right now, the National Bank of Ethiopia mandates all financial institutions to abide to specific actually scheme. The Ethiopia defined its own scheme recently, and I think by end of February, all financial institutions make use of identical QR representation, which is relying on AMVCO 3.0 definition. So that is one thing. The other one is the peer-to-peer payment. So person-to-person transfer happen usually mobile banking between any financial institution, no arbitration. As long as you know the account, you have the possibility of pushing that one. The other one is a digital payment. It is a bit of starting, but it is not at the level of its maturity right now, because most of the services nowadays, especially the e-com services, are derived by Telegram and cash on delivery, if you experience this one, than the e-commerce. But there are e-commerce sites like Sharagalla, Zimol. These are e-commerce sites which are available and linked with the card information. And cardless is going to be happen sooner via EthSwitch, I believe so. And the other one is the payment processing, where this is actually the settlement and disputes resolution and other phenomena. So when we look at the Ethiopian financial landscape, this is a report produced a year ago by Shega. Okay, so there are players in remittance known the Smile Pay and Cashgo and Mama Pays. These are players in remittance, usually the international remittance, not for local remittance. Mobile money and payments like Amole, Kacha, Yanepe, Belcash. Some of the institutions, I'm afraid, are actually finished right now. And they are also players under the payment processing, like the Santim Pay, Arif Pay. You can watch, okay, Kacha and so forth. But most of the payment processing are not doing the actual payment processing, I'm afraid. They are focusing on the gambling, just baiting, that is how they back up their survival, but that is not the only niche they can serve. There are a lot of spaces to be addressed, in my opinion. And lending and saving are the others. So the next, as I came from EthSwitch, I think I should say something about EthSwitch and its role. So EthSwitch is owned by all financial institutions, banks, MFI, and actually PIIs, the payment instrument issuers, and the PSOs. So with actually the mandates given from the National Bank, the mandates are interoperable among the financial interoperability so that we are supposed to create an open loop. So no arbitration, whether you are a customer of Bank X or Bank Y, all right? But you have a freedom to transact freely as long as the banks are interoperable across the common platform, that is the EthSwitch routing platform. And the other one is providing a national payment gateway, which we activate a year ago via the card, but we have other payment instruments, not only the card, but also account. It can be derived by account, it can be derived by QR, it can be derived by alias, which are a subsequent phase of project to be happen sooner. And the other one is shared platforms and infrastructure. We provide reconciliation software for all banks as long as so long as they need it. And the other mandate is the central clearinghouse. So the at every day for especially card payments, we made a T+1 every 24 hours. The interbank are going to be the interbank transaction going to be happen the daytime, but settlement will happen once in a day. But when it comes to the instant payment switch that EthSwitch acquired recently, we start settling twice a day. I think since last year, February. And the other one is implement domestic payment scheme. The QR scheme is derived from EthSwitch, and actually it is mandated for all banks by the National Bank. We have also the Ethiopia card scheme, like the Visa and MasterCard is a card scheme. We Ethiopians are supposed to be proud of, say, we have Ethiopia card instead of Visa and others. So this is the execution, the roadmap that we are really reaching. The company established in 2011. In 2016, ATM services across all banks happen. And in 2020, the post interoperability is realized. In 2021, the person-to-person actually fund transfer is happen. In 2022, we have executed our grant project, and in 2023, the national payment gateway is piloted and commenced. And in 2024, we are now shifting our person-to-person to the instant payment switch. That is the new phenomena, and QR is currently also derived centrally by EthSwitch. So after maybe after 3 months, you have a possibility of scanning any QR. It is interoperable. You can use any payment, any mobile banking or any wallets. So long as you read that QR, there is no restriction, all right? You can read it using the Ethio Telecom, or you can read it using the CB or whatever application. So I think I have said much. These are the product portfolio that we do have. Really, thank you.
Welcome back. I hope we had good coffee and tea. It was a nice refreshment. I think it's time now we will have a panel session, and I will invite our previous presenters. I think Melka, Girma, please come to the floor, and I will also invite Beza Mamo. And I think I need to introduce another person who is from Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the largest bank in terms of money and at the same time volume and number of customers. I will invite Mr. Seyoum Damtew, who is the Director of Information Systems CBE. Okay. We have heard their presentation, but let me start from uh, Mr. Seyoum Damtew, the Information Security Director of CBA. And with the topics that we have been discussing, which is digitalizing the financial sector as a leading commercial bank in Ethiopia, I would like to ask what is the status of CBE in terms of digital um, finance and digital transactions uh, as a forefront digital transformation in Ethiopia. Uh, would you share us the current status and especially particularly what CBE is doing in enhancing digital banking services?
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thank you to having me here. Just to give a glance about CB current status. CB is, as it's mentioned, the largest bank. We can say it in East Africa, not only in Ethiopia. It has like 45 million customer base and like 2,000 branches, 3,000 ATMs in the country, and maybe about 47% of the deposit of the country is in CB. This is just high level status of CB. But from digital penetration perspective, just to give you an insight, let's say in a daily basis, we have 7 million transactions total with all those 2,000 branches, 3,000 ATMs, and digital channels like mobile banking, CBWare, internet banking, card banking, POS, all. Out of these, 75% of the transactions are via our digital channels, which is out of uh, 7 million transaction of daily transaction, around above 5 million transactions are via our digital channels. Out of these digital channels, the most prominent one is our mobile banking. Mobile banking, which has two channels. We using applications for Android as well as for iOS, and using USSD channels. So by now, most third parties around financial technologies in the country, they are integrated with these channels, including CBWare and mobile banking. Just to differentiate CBWare and mobile banking is for those customers with account, whereas CBWare is for those customers which doesn't have an account but only a phone number. So this is a status of CB. Thank you.
I think I'll get back to Seyoum since he's from security. He would share us the cybersecurity aspects of CB, what they have been doing and the challenge they have. But before that, let me bring you back to uh, Melka Girma again for a very difficult question. Not very difficult. I just since seeing the digital landscape and also in the fintech, I always wonder where we are as in Africa, where we are in our digital financial ecosystem and what we have did so far, and especially in comparing with what they did, for example, in Kenya, the M-Pesa, where they have reached in the whole East Africa, and also the Nigerian fintech is booming recently. We hear statistics, and at the same time, I would like you to share what you think about the global payment ecosystems, what's happening, the UPI systems in India, and also the China payment systems. Along that, I would like if you can stress where you can see Shega media contributing to bridging the gaps that you would identify in your answers, uh, and to be a leader in this digital finance landscape.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Beakal, for the question. I think from my experience and from my perspective, Ethiopia has made great strides in terms of digital payment adoption when we compare to some African countries you have mentioned as well. Let's take Kenya, for example, as you mentioned. Earlier, I was mentioning 2007, where the period the Economist predicted in its article, the end of cash era. That same year, M-Pesa was founded or established in Kenya. So it has been 18 years since M-Pesa was around in Kenya. Now, I believe they have close to 40 million subscribers, close to 40 million subscribers. And it has taken them almost 18 years, right? However, earlier, Dr. Aviot was mentioning 51 million subscribers as of now in just 4 years. So we can compare the stride that has been made in recent years. Of course, coming late has an advantage as well sometimes. I think given that Ethiopia has made great strides in terms of mobile money adoption, but given the volume of the economy, the volume of the population, a lot needs to be done. That's in terms of mobile money. When we come to Nigeria, I believe, is known mostly for sports business. Last time I checked, there are close to 3.5 million POS devices in the country. That's a lot. For your comparison, in Ethiopia, there are only 12,000 POS devices. That's very minimal. What I want to compare is not just the number of devices, but POS has two sides. There is the issuing side, cards, and as a matter of fact, close to probably 45 million debit cards has been issued in this country, and we have just 12,000 POS devices for 45 million debit cards. So the acquiring side of the house is not at par with the issuing side of the house. So I think a lot has not been done in that regard. And usually the POS business in Nigeria is mentioned as an example in Africa. I think it's an area where Ethiopia has not made great strides. And in fact, better outcomes are being observed in terms of mobile money than card-based transactions. Apart from the digital payment options and things like that, I think a lot of fintech players also exist in these countries. Probably there are more than 200 fintech companies in Nigeria. We are talking about a few. So there's a lot that needs to be done in that area as well. We need more fintech companies, innovations that create use cases for the economy. In Kenya as well, there are probably close to 60 or 70 fintech companies. So they are making great strides in that regard. That is something I think Ethiopia needs to progress as well. Maybe looking at a bit of the global perspective as well, let's take maybe Japan. Japan is one of the most developed countries in the world. However, their number one national agenda is creating cashless society. So Japan is one of the developed countries with the least digital payments adoption yet. So cash is a king in Japan. They are very comfortable with it, but they are working towards making the society digital. So that kind of tells you, well, basically, I don't think cash is an enemy. and we don't have to label in a way cash should disappear or sort of. I think there is always a use case for it. However, the experience from other countries also is also helpful. You also mentioned India, I guess. I think one critical use case that we can refer to India is the interoperability of accounts into a single interface, right? You have a single application where you can access all your bank accounts. That should be very convenient for people, because in Ethiopia, apparently the mobile banking transaction is huge. Last time I checked, the digital transaction in the country has reached almost 9.7 trillion Ethiopian birr. And out of that, 6 point something trillion is mobile banking. So you can see the adoption in the country, but there are different kinds of mobile banking being issued by different banks. Having that in one platform is something that we can take as a good lesson from the other countries as well. I think I've said much, but the second question you asked, or you have.
Second question: how do you see Shega Media contributing to this data?
Yes, so Shega Media's and Technology is an information service and technology company that provides an integrated media, data, and intelligence service. So what we do is we aggregate lots of data from different sectors. It could be education, it could be finance, it could be agriculture, it could be healthcare. We provide insights for organizations, entrepreneurs, innovators, investors to utilize those insights and decide. So we are in a business of elevating decision-making processes in Ethiopia and beyond. We have platforms, we have solutions that people can use. We have a research and advisory service as well. So what we are trying to do is there is a lot of data in the country, as you can see. Let's simply look at, for example, financial services. There is a lot of data being produced by the banks and others, right? But most of these data are in silos. So what Shega is trying to do is to bring that in one infrastructure where people can go to and refer, get insight out of it, and be able to decide on what to do next in whatever business they have. So that's what we are doing, and we have a specific focus for innovators. And as you see in my earlier presentation as well, fintechs, education technology companies, agriculture technology companies, health tech, these can utilize our platform to be able to, have an idea of what the economy looks like, what the market looks like, what the market segments could look like, and can also predict out of it. So those are the kind of services that we are providing for the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. I think what I got is we cannot simply aim for cashless without understanding the pros and the cons. And even in the developed countries, people are tending to prefer to use cash. And at the same time, information is actually the fuel of the day. So whatever being processed will help us to foster this digitization efforts. I think let me come to Mr. Beza, and I'll give the floor to our audiences. While you are presenting, you are sharing us the maturity levels, actually no, the historical advancements in the fintech from 1.0 to 4. From the presentation, I think I was pretty convinced that we are around 3 point something, not 4, but 3 is not even fully covered. So still, I want to ask a question, since you mentioned the cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence, and also big data analytics are some of the advances that we see in the progress of digitization, digitizing finance. Where do you see us? Because I visited Nairobi probably 23 years ago, and I was surprised to make all payments with M-Pesa. And I was tempted to try it. This a small shop, and I just bought avocado, 2 pieces. I did it intentionally, and I said I'm paying with M-Pesa. And the guy was happy, and I was surprised. And now it's coming to us, right? It's coming to us. So this is actually unexpected uh, progress in the digitizations that I see. And considering what EthSwitch is doing, how do you see compare uh, our efforts like the fintechs in Flutterwave and also M-Pesa in Africa? And how do we scale? Are we only here for local consumptions, or how do we plan to scale to the level of Africa? And how do you see us in the AI, blockchain, and big data? And that's what I want to ask.
Thank you again, Dr. Beakal. So just as I capture, I try to respond some of the basic questions that you raise. Of course, we are not in a position to beat the FinTech 4.0. But some of the projects, the grant projects that we execute right now, like the instant payment system, are the way that can lead us towards the 4.0. So right now we have deployed the instant payment switch using the person to person. Then we can go to the QR payment. We assume that the QR payment, especially the merchant presented QR, is the one that drive most of the transaction at a granular levels. So we can expect more volume than the value using the QR. So every merchant would have the acceptance QR that can be scanned by the different payment instrument mechanisms, and then pay as you go. So we assume the merchant presented QR is a basic driver that can lead us to fully digitize at least a cash light society. In terms of the data analytics, we have exercised some models, but the models should be mature as you get more data. So we have a framework defined, especially for lending services and for fraud monitoring, as well as for the shared SOC. We as one of the things that we provide as a shared platform is the shared SOC. There are very few banks who own their own SOC, but others demands the SOC, and the fintechs demands the security as a basic backbone for their services. So EthSwitch is already secure a grant from Bill and Melinda Gates that's supposed to cover the build up of the SOC. If we compare our services with M-Pesa is on the market for large years, as indicated by Melka, but we start like back 2 years, this project. So we are in a good pace. Phase by phase, we are going to execute it. But the models they use, the M-Pesa model is a telecom-led model. The EthSwitch model is a bank-led model. So there is actually we can't compare apple to apple. If M-Pesa is in country right now, but M-Pesa is supposed to be a wallet provider. So there are restrictions. The amount to be driven by the wallet is not as equivalent as to that of the mobile banking, because the mobile banking is more trusted. It is directly linked to the account. So there are some variations. Of course, I admire what M-Pesa is doing right now. If we consider the Flutterwave, it is a sort of SDK, especially for the e-com sort of application that you can easily integrate your marketplace with the financial systems. We brought NPG, we call it NPG, the National Payment Gateway, where this National Payment Gateway is actually relies on the local currency. And if there is a possibility to have a remote e-com to be happen, this national payment gateway is also a gateway for other. So be it a Flutter or Flutter Wave or whatever, these are APIs that can easily integrate and drive the transaction. So we have our own SDK and API, which we can connect to payment gateway, or we can assume as hosted page as well. So that is the most important aspect. With regard to the AI, right now we try to implement a multi-tenant fraud monitoring AI capable. So we are at the verge of executing this as a project. Most of the things are underway. The project is, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think let me give 2 minutes to Mr. Seyoum because like security is the base for trust, so that people can use our digital system. And you remember what happened to CBE last time because of these online and digital bank transactions being allowed. But but for the good reason, almost all the money is recovered, so we shouldn't worry about CBE. But I want to say with the scale of CBE and at the same time, I assume there are a lot of fraud or maybe suspicious fraud activities being detected at your side. And can you share us in a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes or three, uh, what are the challenges and what mitigation strategies are you deploying at CBE?
Thank you again. Maybe as Dr. Bakar raised it, I think you remember the March 15 incident, what happens in the bank. What exactly happened is a human error where the coders add a line in wrong line, so that the transaction which goes from our core banking to the one of our digital channel, which is CBE, is auto-reversed. And so all the transactions goes to there will be auto-reversed while we are trying to address some other challenges, which was reconciliations. So, but all the transactions done during that period was 100% recovered by now. And I think it's already mentioned in different medias. So this shows that I think cyber attack uh, is expected by this time, but the quality of an organization is resilience for cybersecurity, and not only for cybersecurity, for any operational or technical glitch that happened like March 15 to the bank. The bank has proved that its endurance or resilience for such levels of incidents. So coming to the digital channels challenges, I can say cyber fraud, cyber security, and KYC are the major challenges in the ecosystem. Cyber fraud is mainly related to these days fraudulent activities are done. Mainly before it was like um, illiterate people are doing fraud activities, like they call to the customer and they say that do this and do that, so that they persuade our customers to do mobile banking transaction or CBE transactions based on the series of commands given by the fraudsters, by saying that you are a winner or you have to add some data to the bank or something. So with different mechanisms. But these days, fraud is moving from illiterate approach to literate approach, cyber literate approach. That means malwares are distributed to our customers via different channels, different social medias, saying that you get a winner if you click this link and download or something. While they're clicking that link, they're installing application to their mobile banking mobiles or appliances or computers. Then that malware will automatically do transactions. So this is one of the key areas where we have a challenge. While tracing the fraudulent money, most of the time it goes to cryptocurrencies, where it is no more traceable. That is the other challenge. So maybe in terms of KYC, know your customer. These days, as you know, national ID is in progress, of course. Maybe out of 120 million or 70 million, around 70 million, who are expected to have a banking account or eligible for banking. Only around 10 million have national ID. So lack of national ID in the country, or fulfilled national ID, or complete national ID in the country, KYC becomes difficult, because these days our customers, they came with AA ID or local IDs where they can easily forge it. So someone who comes to the bank by saying Mr. Seyoum, and when it goes to another bank or Telebir or other digital channels, then it may say Dr. Beakal. There is no single source of truth, and that is a big challenge for digital ecosystem in general. The other challenge in the digital ecosystem is digital literacy of our customers as employees, how to manage their digital channels or digital service from the service provider side. And insider threats are very key these days, also because insider maybe employees may be manipulated by fraudsters, so that they provide informations knowingly or unknowingly to the fraudsters. And technology limitations, for example, majority of the transactions is by USSD, and USSD channel, by its inherently, it has a technology limitation. Let's say, for example, the transaction between any bank and telecom service providers, the USSD channels are unencrypted. Means there are PIN numbers who are used as for authentication purpose for transactions, and that will be easily manipulated by frauded employees, as well as someone who has a capability of sniffing that traffic. Maybe the trends of cyber attack is changing now. For example, we know about artificial intelligence, but these days artificial intelligence are used for attacking also. You can generate your own phishing email easily using artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. You can create malware using artificial intelligence easily. So the ecosystem will create not only for the good players, but also for fraudsters. So also a new terms called crime as service. For example, you can acquire malware as a service with small money. ransomware as service, phishing campaign as service, keylogger as service, where you can manipulate or monitor someone's keylog. For example, in my mobile, if I install that malware, then someone can easily capture what key I type after I open my mobile banking, so that they can capture my PIN number easily. So these are the major challenge areas where the digital ecosystem is impacted. For example, previously, my friends or presenters, they raised about QR code, but the new phishing technique is called Q phishing, where you can be easily phished using you will not just scan every QR code you get. Otherwise, you will end up with malware or spywares, where you can be easily manipulated by those spywares. The other big challenge is data leak, where our employees or knowingly or unknowingly, they can leak data to the dark web. So these are the major areas, but the emerging or the future also is more worse. For example, quantum computation. Look, the cryptographic technologies that we have using these days. For example, if you configure IPsec or VPN, then you may use AAS or DAS or something, where we have a cryptographic computation based on the current computational capability of our computers or computer systems. But after quantum computing is realized, then these all cryptographic technologies will be easily manipulated. So these are the major challenges, and what is the bank is doing to address this emerging ecosystem. So just to address some of the way forwarders that we suggest is in general, for fintechs, cryptocurrency players in the market, we should have a framework, a governing framework, where each cryptocurrency owners or fintech should be governed by. But that has some gaps these days. Coming to the bank is following standards like ISO 27001 and 2022. Currently, it's already certified, fulfilling all the 93 controls. And PCI DSS, NIST, these are the frameworks the bank is following. And the state-of-the-art principle like zero trust architecture is followed. In just to mention zero trust in a little, zero trust has 5 pillars. One of the pillar is identity, where who is accessing my systems? And do I know who is accessing at what time, from where? That's identity. Like privilege access management, identity access management, these technologies and processes, frameworks need to be implemented in an organization where zero trust is implemented. The other pillar is device identity, where which devices are connected to my critical systems, core banking, digital channels. So we have to identify which devices are there. So, and network segmentation. Before we have a trusted based approach, yeah? Inside, outside, and DMZ, demilitarized zone. So whatever inside communication, east to west communications are trusted. But with zero trust approach, there is no trusted network. We'll trust after verifying, so that north to south, east to west traffic should be well monitored and manipulated. So micro segmentation should be well implemented, focusing the critical systems. The other pillar of zero trust is application and data. Data leak protections should be implemented. In the bank, we have already implemented these zero trust application areas. principles like or processes like security clearance are uh, very vital and very important, so that any system in when it's acquired from outside or developed from inside in-house, because it goes to customer or goes to live for production purpose or use, it should pass the security clearance of the bank, and including third-party integrations and others. Um, the other is related to fraud management. We have implemented state-of-the-art proactive based fraud management technology, where we can monitor the behavior of our employees as well as our customers, so that we can detect abnormal behaviors and respond or protect our customers not to be manipulated. Principles like secure by design. It's a before implementing any technologies, we have to review the high level design, the low level design from security aspects, so that we have to follow the zero trust principles architectures. Secure by operation. Any change in the bank should pass through change management process. Secure by operation, secure by demand. These are the principles that we are using to secure the ecosystems. Moreover, like threat intelligence, these days, with all these controls applied, we might have a data leak where our customers' credential or employees' credential will be sold in the dark web. So we have a dark web intelligence where we can uh, detect leaked credential, including leaked card information. So for example, if we launch e-commerce in the country, then the e-commerce means the card PAN number, expiry date, CVV number, and others. If someone gets this information, then he can do transactions without your knowledge. So we have to have like multi-factor authentication techniques, as well as we have to have a dark web intelligence techniques. So last but not least, but it's critical and key to collaborate with stakeholders like telecom operators, because fraudsters, after they did the fraud, they vanish within less than 20 minutes. For example, if I fraud Dr. Beakal's money, then I will send the money to some telecom operator. Then from the telecom operator, maybe to some cryptocurrency, then I vanish, because I don't have single source of truth. When my account in the cryptocurrency is Mr. X, while my account in Teleber is Mr. Y. So even for legal enforcement, it becomes too difficult. So the basic principles to, because now digital ecosystem is increasing, but in order to maintain it and make it a trusted digital channel ecosystem, we need to have a well organized governance, as well as like national ID. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think he highlighted the whole cybersecurity framework should be from people to process and also technology. Um, and it also needs governance, and security should be by design, not something that we add up. So thank you for sharing what CB is doing. I think now let me give a chance to our audiences. I think we have a few minutes, so not few actually. We have around 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes or more. So if you can raise your questions, I can give you the chance to ask or reflect if you have anything to add.
One up for a question or a comment, or yes. Please introduce yourselves when you ask your questions.
Salam. My name is Marek Zodru, and I am a grade 12 student in Dandiguru School. And my question,
አልሰማሁም በደንብ
My name is Marek Zodu, and
You
I
are
am
from?
Marek Zodu. I am a grade 12 student in Dandiboru School.
Okay.
Yeah, and my question is, you have mentioned that you, like the solutions to these fraudulent activities might be like quantum computing and quantum cryptography. And have you implemented any of these in your banking systems? That is my question.
Anyone else? We're not a lot, so we should take advantage of the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Kabadu Bulacho. I am an IT professional. Just enthusiast in what's happening in Ethiopia in terms of internet and internet-based services. Particularly, fintech is of very special interest to me. Because a couple of, I think 1 or 2 years ago, I had a chance to interact with payment gateway systems for raising donation systems for the bird as well as for victims of conflict. Eyes on Ethiopia in Migrate.com specifically. So at that time when we were trying to establish that, the only solution we had was to use external payment gateway service provider. Believe it was Flutterwave. Looks like since then, Ethiopia has progressed in developing and implementing various services of its own, like the commercial bank. So my question is, this being a financial system, security, as many of you mentioned, is very important. Is there a standard and is there a body that regulates the qualities and the requirements of financial transaction systems? Is there a national body? I know you mentioned the standards like the DSS and so on. You might be doing that on your own, but there should be a national level regulatory body that kind of accreditates each system. So is there a certain body, maybe National Bank or the Ethiopian Standard Agency? I don't know. I just want to know a little bit more about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Please.
Hello, my name is Ergaba Asfaw, and I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, hopefully in the fintech scene. It was mentioned earlier that India and Japan are somehow more progressed than Ethiopia. And I've been to India, so what I can comment on is, for example, in India, UPI or United Payment Interface, it's the common thing that most people use. You can buy from a street vendor, I don't know, like the lowest thing you can buy for 20 or 10 rupees and use the UPI. And that came from the Aadhaar card, I think, the FIDA or national ID right now, what we're trying to implement. They have had that for almost 2 decades now in India. So it was much easier, I think, to implement the UPI. And also the government incentivized and pushed the UPI implementation on the people, much as a duty rather than as a choice. That we could probably follow that as well. And in Japan, you have said that it's cash is king, but also we have to recognize that they use some cryptocurrencies as it is acknowledged. For example, you can use Bitcoin to buy for exchange to yen from the ATM machines and as such. So I think, first of all, as a nation, we should focus on the infrastructure first, and then the rest can come. For example, once FIDA is, I would say, 80%, 90% populated in Ethiopia, then we can have the UPI, the United Payment Interface, or the QR code, much like at a faster rate, I would say. So my question is, in some nations, POS machines and ATM or vending machines, it's a type of vending machine basically. So do we have any plans on privatizing that like sector? And if there's any progress towards that. I would like to ask that. Thank you.
Any more? Anyone else? Okay.
Thanks for giving me the chance. My name is Eliab Sefu. I'm working on a startup in fintech, Lahulu. Okay, my first question is from my name is my name is Eliab Sefu. I'm working in a new startup that's called Lahulu in fintech. sh- My first question is from regulatory and policy framework. What are the current regulatory challenges facing the digital of financial service in Ethiopia? The second question is from technology and infrastructure. What technology infrastructure is necessary for the successful digitalization of financial service in Ethiopia? The third one will be for Mr. Seyoum in financial inclusive. What specific strategy should be implemented to ensure that women and marginalized community benefit from digital financial sector? The fourth question is from security and trust. What measures need to be taken to ensure the security and privacy of customer data in digital financial service? The last not but the least, future trade. What emerging technology do you see as having the most significant impact on the future of financial in Ethiopia? Also, in the collaboration of ecosystem development, what collaborative effective between government, financial institution, and tech companies are essential for serving digital financial ecosystem? Thanks for it.
I think that's good enough. Oh, we have one. It's like people are getting warmed.
Thank you very much. My name is Shetu. I work in the investment space. Actually, my question is concerning cryptocurrencies, the cryptocurrency sector. It is lightly mentioned, but not dwelled very well. Even though there is no regulation, the National Bank of Ethiopia has no regulation concerning the cryptocurrency ecosystem and market. But there are a lot of informal activities here in Ethiopia as well. And some literature says it is the future of financial inclusion and democratizing the financial sector. So in this regard, I didn't have any comment or opinion from the panelists concerning the regulation, how it's going to be actually developed in the future in Ethiopia. So if there is anything, especially from Mr. Beza, he's from EthSwitch and NB, I want your insight and reflection in this aspect. Thank you.
Okay, I think we could come back to you to respond to.
I think, yeah, we can respond. Let me reiterate the questions and redirect to the panelists. I think Marek's question was, I think, let me send it to Mr. Seyoum. Are you using quantum cryptography? And if not, what's your plan? I think I should redirect it to you. And I want to redirect Kafalo's questions about maintaining the quality of transactions. Where is the regulatory body that we see that qualifies transactions? And I think it should be for Beza, or I think it's Melka or Beza, both of you. But I have a question for him, so you take the question. Okay. And let me go to Ergib, right? Yeah, Ergib, she mentioned her experience and the need for FIDA and national ID. But still the question is, unless we have this infrastructure data itself, we're not going to proceed because the experiences are mostly encouraging and also creating regulatory sandboxes for innovation. That's what you shared, and thank you for what you have shared. I think you don't have a question, do you? Eh? Yes, yes, yeah. Privatization of ATMs and POS machines. Uh, yeah, I think I'll think to you. Yes, okay. Melka. The last question is not the last. The first question is a lot of sub questions actually, five of them. I think let me take this to Beza. Can you tell us about the legal frameworks in digitizing and also what infrastructures are actually needed? One of them, the national ID, the KYC, the customer due diligence is very important. That's already mentioned. Is there anything that you want to add? And I also would like you to emphasize on by adding the question, so the question of Mr. Shetu on whether national bank has regulations or policies regarding cryptocurrencies, because we see some activities happening which are informal, and at the same time you see the government pushing that we shouldn't use these technologies because they are open for um, money laundering and other terrorist financing. But still, we see people sending money to M-Pesa from blockchains. Recently, I just found out and I was surprised. Is there any regulatory framework that you want to share with that, if there is, or if you know if there is any under development, we'll be happy to hear what you see. Another one is financial inclusion. I think I should add this to Dr. Mr. Seyoum. Financial inclusivity for women and also the youth. I think in one of the presentations it was mentioned more than 40% of the Ethiopian population is more with from age 15 to 35, right? Yeah, that is actually the productive age that we see. So how do you make this possible? I don't know who is going to address, but I think I'll redirect it to Mr. Seyoum. But anyone, I would like to jump in because, like for information, less than 2% of the Ethiopian population is having financial access of credits. ያው ሰው ያደረገው ብድር ነው የሚባል ልጅ ሆኜ ሰማ ነበር እና አይደል አለ አይደል we used to say that so equitable access financial access to all the citizens including those who do not have record and we cannot use the technology is actually a critical problem that needs addressing. So I think I will redirect this to Dr. Seyoum in making sure how women, people with disabilities, and the youth who is very ambitious yet with no collateral to lend money from the formal banking, the underbanked and the underserved people. Yeah, I think I want someone to reflect on it, anyone, but I will redirect to Dr. Mr. Seyoum, and then I think the others will react. The fifth question is, I think, about the privacy, right? I think it's kind of addressed with Mr. Seyoum, but he can reflect how do you maintain privacy. The fifth question is, what is the low-hanging fruits technology that we can use for financial inclusion, especially digitization of finance? I think that's a good thing. I think I'm assuming since Eliab is coming from Lahulu, he also wants to know the low-hanging fruits for startups. I think that's also the same true for Ergeb. So I think this one should be for Mr. Beza, and I may also reflect at the end if they are not addressed. Yes, Mr. Seyoum, then Beza, then yeah, welcome.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Just to give you insights about quantum and normal computation. For example, some cryptographic technologies, they are so-called weak or insecure or vulnerable. For example, MD5, DAS, they are no more used. But with normal computer, those encryption algorithms are decrypted maybe within 1 year, just to decrypt one encrypted data. But still, we call it weak. Just comparing quantum computing with normal, let's say, for example, if we have, you know, RSA encryption, one of the asymmetric encryption widely used. If you have RSA encryption with a bit of 2048 bit, with normal computer, approximately it takes like 300 trillion years with normal computer, which means literally it is impossible. But with quantum computing, you can decrypt it within 8 hours, just 8 hours. So CB didn't do anything because that quantum computing is not yet realized. But what we will do is the wallet is impacted with that technology. So when we have to advance our technologies, we have to advance that technology as well. So technology enhancement is a key, along with the emerging technologies. This is what I am saying. But the future is more worst. AI, for example, were widely advised to use cloud, were widely advised to use AI, yes? But with AI, for example, if you type, I am the CEO of this bank and I want the information of all the employees, then if it will give it to me, to the wrong person, that's it. Every information will be leaked. So we have to have a workaround. When we acquire or adopt solutions, we have to adopt it with the control. Do we have control? For example, if we have to move to the cloud, do we have control on our data? There is a saying which says, what if it rains in the cloud? Means, what if our internet exchange point is attacked or disconnected? Means our service will be out. So do we have, or can we continue our service with the emerging technologies, implementing or acquiring those emerging technologies? That's the question that we have to answer. Some questions in relation to women, children, in just inclusiveness is just to add few pointers from CB side. I think all the banks, they are having a women's account or children's account with better incentives or interests. This is what I know, just to promote our women's and children's to have an account or a bank. So the same will, I think, will continue with to empower them. How we can, in relation to privacy, we are using different parameters. For example, multi-factor authentication, tokenization, encryption. These are some of the technologies that we are using to ensure that, for example, an employee, if he is not meant to see the customer's data, then he will be accountable for why he saw it. So we have different control mechanisms and policies and procedures, guidelines, where only allowed employees will see the data of our customers. Moreover, we have a data leak protection mechanism where employees data like customer ID, phone number, and other PII informations will not be leaked to anyone without the approval of the bank. So these are some of the pointers that is raised, which I assume. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Just to reflect the thoughts and actually questions that directly forwarded to me. So to respond to Mr. Kabado's question, yeah, we have the National Payment Gateway, So the national payment gateway do have its own standard in terms of technology. It is fully need to be comply with the 3DS technology. The 3DS technology is a technology whereby there is a need to implement a factor of authentication as and when it is required. So there are flows that are challenge flows, so that we just kept that standardization, especially if the user is first time use the service of e-commerce or changing the devices. So based on the primary information, there is another layer of authentication to be in place. But if the device is the same and we ensure, it becomes a smooth transaction, not a challenge flow transaction. This is with regard to the technological requirements. But we have also other requirements. There need to have, especially e-com sites, should have an extensive review in terms of the INSA requirements. It should be reviewed every 6 months. So every merchant site should get a certification from the National Security Agency. So that is also the standardized body that we make use of as a second proof of assurance. And with regard to the integration, we have a possibility of integrating payment gateway to payment gateway, so that is actually, if the payment gateway is supposed to save the data of the customer, should be comply with the PCI DSS. So the data should be encrypted at rest, at transit, and on use. Those principles should be kept for payment gateway to payment gateway. And we have another mechanism, that is the hosted payment page, where directly the e-com is going to be connected with our national or NPG, National Payment Gateway. To respond, I don't know, maybe Melka or myself. Probably Melka can go on the privatization of POS and ATMs. With regard to the infrastructure, yes, it is paramount important. We know the Indian practice, the Aadhaar, because they have the Aadhaar, the onboarding mechanism, and of course, the first layer of authentication become very smooth. Nowadays, the UPI is a public commodity. It is a public trade. It is not only available in India, but you have the UPI in UAE, you have the UPI in Euro. So it is a public trade because of its capability for the identification mechanism, and one can drive the any payment on top of this platform. When it comes to EthSwitch, EthSwitch is now start integrating with the national ID, and we are supposed to drive transaction not directly by the individual account, instead by aliases. So that is using the phone number or email that can cover the account, but the individual can link that alias information directly to a specific account, and multiple alias reference is also possible. So we have that mechanism, but the data that we have right now at the national ID is not in a position to actually execute this. Maybe the Lahulu alias. Lahulu is a previous company. Are you coming from Mr. Munir or your own? Okay, it's a startup. Take care of the name. So when it comes to the regulatory challenge, the regulatory challenge, the National Bank puts a very stringent requirements, not only from the technology that you own, because if you are a solution provider, your solution should be comply against the PCI SSF software framework. There is a PCI software framework. If you are the ATM or card issuer, probably other PCI compliance requirements are there, like the PCI PIN if you are involved in the issuing of the customer cards. So this is a technical requirements, but also they deep dive into the manning. Okay, you need to have the customer compliance minimum 1, with this year of experience, your CO should be this and this and this. They have that all details. So you should have to get and actually look it as your Bible if you really want to come as a fintech. I think, yeah, the robo advisor is the new area, especially the AI. That is the most important aspect if new emergence comes. Collaborative, it depends. So you can provide service by your own, getting a license from the national bank, or you can approach banks. So banks do have the digital department, but the digital department can't address everything. So in collaboration with the bank digital units, you can come up with a very nice proposal, and actually you can collaborate. So you can be a solution provider, not necessarily a PIM or a PSO. I think that's it. Or is a crypto? The crypto is mine. Okay, probably. Yeah, the cryptocurrency, the principles. Yeah, of course, for crypto, it is under the fintech 4.0, more of. You need to have the mining when we thought of the cryptocurrency. And I know that in ICT Park, there exists one company. I don't know the success stories here. But as a national bank, the national bank demands a centralized system, which is in contrast to the crypto. But what approach to the crypto to the national bank is the CDBC, the central crypto technique, which is managed at a national level at least, not necessary to reach out to other borders.
I think there are a couple of leftover questions that I would like to take on. The first being the regulation around POS operators, ATM operators, right? I think there is already a regulation for it. There was a directive that was issued, I believe, back in 2021. I mean, local companies these days can take a POS operator license. They can take a ATM operator license. There is a requirement for it. And in fact, there are POS operators in Ethiopia as we speak. The likes of ArifPay and SantiPay are POS operators, and they are dedicated POS operators. So, but I think a few conditions need to be fulfilled for banks to let go of these specialized services for fintechs. The first one is our fintech companies need to strengthen their capabilities, their capacities to operate these payment options. And the other thing is the banks also need to come closer to fintechs, collaborate, and bring them up to speed so that they can partner and let go of some of the non-core activities that the banks are currently doing, including POS operation, ATM operation, and things like that. But I think the bottom line, there is already a regulation for it. Probably the other questions that I would like to, in terms of access to finance, Dr. Beakal, you mentioned something. So I think the answer lies, again, in the digitization of transactions. In terms of MSMEs, for example, probably I have the data from 2021, but there are close to 2.5 million MSMEs in Ethiopia, and 98% of them are established in the last 10 years. Actually, of all businesses that were registered in Ethiopia, 98% of them are MSMEs. Now, what's the problem with MSMEs is that they don't have digital footprint. And unless you have that, it's very difficult to get access to finance. And one of the pertinent issues that MSMEs face is that lack of working capital, right? So as MSMEs get used to digital transactions, banks and other financial institutions will have the opportunity to provide finance based on the transactions that these merchants are doing. I think We have seen a couple of use cases in the past few years, but there is a lot way to go. So I would say, again, a continued digitization of transactions would eventually lead to more access to finance. I think that's one of the areas where our country needs to do a lot. Yeah, those are the questions I wanted to touch base on, but really finally, what are the low-hanging fruits that we can take on? Again, any solution, any technology solution that is based around MSMEs is going to have a lasting impact. The reason I'm saying so is MSMEs contribute probably close to 60% of any country's GDP, whether it is in Africa or in the US, right? And they hire probably 7 out of 10 of employment opportunities. So they hire the most, they contribute the most to the GDP, and yet they don't have access to finance and things like that because they don't have digital footprint. The reason I'm mentioning this is because it's not only about digital payment transactions and things like that. How about digitizing their business operations as well? There are a lot of things that can be done. So probably our startups need to look at what can we do for MSMEs so that they can have, they can create better visibility of their transactions, operations for financial institutions, and they will get funds out of it to scale their businesses and grow accordingly. I'm not sure if there are any other leftover questions. Those are the ones I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe let me reflect on some of the questions raised. Maybe one of the low-hanging fruits, which is really close to financial inclusion, is maybe, if I make it too specific, is conversational banking. Can you, since there is a digital divide in our country, and most people, they speak the indigenous languages. So having access through this digital language, probably conversation, because reading also is a problem, as we see in statistics. So can I make the person who lives right at the border where there is no education access, but a phone where he can speak to, and he can do transactions and at the same time other activities. So conversational banking, I believe, is actually a low-hanging fruit. And talking about MSME, these micro, small, medium enterprises, which are actually registered businesses, mostly they are led by individuals, and they cannot have access to finance. One of the reasons mentioned was they don't have records, digital records. So the other one is they don't have any credit history that we see in other countries. So one of the solutions which I see forward is, can we use alternative data? Even these are the micros, by the way, and there are also the nano, which you call nano, which they have business, but it's not a registered business. The ones that we see on the Sushines and Gulit, all those people. They don't have registered business, but they still need money. And it's proved that they are hardworking, committed, and they can make impact. How do you make sure they have financial access is a big question. And if you can manage, if you can solve that, then that will have a great impact. But there are some attempts. They also mentioned about Mutu and some banks like Oromia Group and the Amara Bank, including, I think, Zamzam recently. They have released products for nano and micro customers, for those who have registered business and at the same time unregistered business. The amount is not much, but it can help people actually change. Sure. Yeah. 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 Yes. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Actually, I also want to add. I think there's more than 40 billion birds being dispersed for these kind of people. And I have that statistics. The thing is, do you trust him? You are not sure if he's going to return, but you want to use alternative data and AI to measure whether his ability to pay and willingness to pay. Because some people are, they have the ability to pay, but they don't want to pay. So that's interesting. So these are the two things that we can measure, but somehow it's also selfish reasoning in a sense. If people have money, access to finance, then they will not go to robbing people. And also all the political problems we have may be limited in a sense, because when you give access, because they say America is a land of opportunity because there is opportunity, equal access to opportunity. So, but for us, it's 2% access to finance. That's too sad, by the way. So those guys, they become like the bigger fish is getting bigger and bigger. Sorry, so you mean? So, so those guys, they are getting richer and the others are going to diminish. So this is the economic gap, is the divide is actually overwhelming and something has to be done. These are some of the first things. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, what I want to say to summarize, we have seen what's happening from in the payment models and also from Shega Media, how they promote this digitization in the financial sector. And Mr. Seyoum also shared his actually wide experience in the banking and also in the cybersecurity. And I want to thank all of our panelists and presenters, and I want you to give them a round of applause so that they can go to their seats. Thank you very much.
Take a picture of it together. Oh, okay. I can take the mic for you. And then once we take the picture, we're going to give you some beautiful gifts by the Internet Society with, I think, coffee and a coffee mug. So let's please stand together for a nice photo. If you could step forward a little bit, that would be great. There. Please stand together and look at the cameras. Where is my cameraman? Yeah, there he is. Please take a picture, and then Dr. Asrat will come up to hand over these wonderful gifts. And in the meantime, if your hands are not busy, please give Dr. Beakal a round of applause for moderating the conversation. He came under a